Hey everybody, pull up a chair because I've got to tell you about the absolute madness that unfolded right here in Willow Creek Estates. On the surface, it's the picture-perfect American suburb. Manicured lawns that look like they were painted on, beige houses lined up like soldiers, kids on bikes waving at every passing car, and Saturday block parties where everyone pretends they're living the dream. But peel back that glossy HOA brochure and you find a whole different story. Rules stacked higher than the fences, whispers behind closed curtains, and one woman who turned community standards into her own personal dictatorship. My name's Ryan Bennett. 7 years ago, I bought this house after my wife passed, left me and our 9-year-old daughter Mia needing somewhere stable. The place had a grandfathered exemption in the deed from the original developer. No HOA dues, no voting on paint colors, no strangers measuring my grass height. Pure peace. Except for one thing that became the obsession of our neighborhood queen, the massive 200-year-old oak tree in my backyard. That tree wasn't just landscaping, it was family. Its branches shaded our Sunday picnics. Mia's swing set hung from the lowest limb, and its roots kept the whole yard from washing away every time those Midwest storms hit. City records listed it as a protected heritage tree for soil stability, inspected, documented, untouchable without permits. To us, it was memories wrapped in bark. Then Pamela Whitaker moved in 3 years later. Divorced, late 40s, always dressed like she was headed to a board meeting even when she was walking her Yorkie. Perfect blonde bob, clipboard glued to her arm, smile that never touched her eyes. Within 6 months, she somehow became HOA president. Nobody remembers the vote, but suddenly bylaws started multiplying like rabbits. No flags longer than 2 days. Grass no taller than 3 inches. Mailboxes had to be community-approved beige. People started calling her Clipboard Pam behind her back, but to her face they smiled and nodded because nobody wanted the fines. The first shot came on a Tuesday morning. I was sipping coffee on the porch when I spotted the white envelope in my mailbox. No greeting, no dear neighbor, just a printed notice. Violation alert. Hazardous structure on property. Immediate removal required within 14 days. Hazardous structure. My oak tree, the one that had stood through 2 world wars, was suddenly a liability, according to Pam. I laughed out loud reading it. Thought it was a joke or a mix-up since my address wasn't even under HOA jurisdiction. I ignored it. Big mistake in Pam's world. 2 weeks later, another letter arrived, this one with red ink and fake deadlines. Then a third. Pretty soon she was showing up at the fence line every morning, arms crossed, staring at my tree like it had personally insulted her perfect lawn. One Saturday, she finally spoke, voice all sugar and steel. "Mr. Bennett, that tree is a danger to the community. It could fall in a storm and take out half the block." I kept my tone even. "City inspected it last year, Pam. It's protected. And last I checked, my property isn't under your HOA." Her eyelid twitched like I'd slapped her. "The community standards don't bend for rebels, Ryan. Safety first." "Funny," I said, smiling. "I thought safety meant following actual laws instead of playing dictator with a clipboard." She didn't laugh. She just turned and walked away, already dialing someone on her phone. That was the moment I knew this wasn't about the tree. This was about control. Pam had spent her whole life chasing power in boardrooms and marriages that didn't work out, and now she had a whole neighborhood to boss around. My no was the one thing she couldn't stand. Neighbors started acting weird after that. Mrs. Henderson across the street suddenly stopped waving. At the next block party, people went quiet when I walked up. I overheard whispers. "He's lowering property values. That tree could crush a house." Pam was planting seeds, and they were taking root faster than dandelions. Still, I stayed calm. Printed out the city ordinances, highlighted every line that proved my exemption, even added sticky notes like a polite professor. Handed the packet to her at the fence one evening. "Here," I said. "Read it." No jurisdiction. She didn't even glance at the pages. Just smiled that cold smile and said, "Rules are flexible when community safety is involved, dear." That's when I started documenting everything. Emails, photos, dates, times. Quietly. Patiently. Because I knew people like Pam don't stop until someone makes them. Little did I know how far she'd go, or how spectacularly it would blow up in her perfectly made-up face. The harassment didn't stay at the fence. Pam turned it into a full campaign. Every week, a new violation notice showed up, citing bylaws that magically didn't apply to my address, but she quoted anyway. Aesthetic degradation, potential hazard to adjacent properties, unauthorized vegetation. She even started a petition, door to door, claiming my tree was a ticking time bomb that could drop limbs on kids playing in the street. Funny thing was, nobody ever complained to me directly. They just stopped inviting me to playdates and gave me those pitying looks like I was the neighborhood crazy. One afternoon I was out mowing when Pam appeared with two other board members, all wearing matching polo shirts like some cult uniform. "Ryan, the community has spoken," she announced, waving a clipboard with 20 signatures. "We need that eyesore gone." I killed the mower and leaned on the handle. "Community? Last I checked, my deed says I'm not part of your little club. And those signatures? Half those people wave at me every morning. You sure they didn't sign under duress?" Her cheeks flushed. "This isn't personal. It's about protecting property values." "Protecting your ego, you mean?" I shot back. "Bless your heart for trying so hard, Pam. Must be exhausting being the only one who knows what's best for everyone." The other board members shifted uncomfortably. One even mumbled something about checking the bylaws again. Pam just glared and stormed off, muttering about consequences. That night Mia came home from school in tears. Some kid had told her daddy was selfish and might get the whole block sued. My little girl who used to climb that oak every day was now afraid to go in the backyard. That's when the anger really started building in my chest. Not hot and loud, but cold and steady. I wasn't going to let Pam turn my daughter's safe haven into a battlefield. So I went silent. Started recording every interaction on my phone. Consulted a real estate lawyer friend who confirmed what I already knew. She had zero legal ground. But I didn't wave it in her face yet. Let her think she was winning. Meanwhile, the neighborhood turned into a pressure cooker. At the annual HOA potluck, which I wasn't required to attend but showed up anyway to keep eyes on things, Pam gave a speech about unity and standards. Everyone clapped like trained seals while I stood in the back sipping lemonade, watching her soak up the power like a sponge. She escalated again the next month. 5 notices in 1 week, threatening, authorized intervention, and fines that didn't legally apply. I sent certified letters back, polite but firm, reminding her of the exemption. Each reply she sent got nastier. "Your refusal to comply shows a clear disregard for neighbors," one read. I laughed reading that one. Disregard? From the woman who was terrorizing a widower and his kid over a tree? One evening she cornered me unloading groceries from my truck. "You're undermining my authority, Ryan. People are starting to question the board because of you." I set the bags down slowly. "Undermining? Pam, I'm just existing on my own property. Maybe if you spent less time policing my yard and more time fixing the potholes on Maple Drive, people wouldn't question you." Her eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this." I almost felt bad for her in that moment. The way her whole identity was tied to controlling everyone else. Almost. But then I remembered Mia crying in her room, and the regret vanished. I kept collecting evidence. Timestamps of her fence line stakeouts, photos of her taking pictures of my yard without permission, copies of every illegal notice. Little did she know I was building a case that would eventually bury her. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Neighbors avoided eye contact. Mia stopped playing outside as much. And Pam, she walked taller than ever, like she owned the whole street. But power like that always cracks eventually. And the crack was coming faster than any of us realized. By now the whole neighborhood felt like a bad reality show nobody signed up for. Pam had convinced half the block my tree was public enemy number 1. People started parking farther away just in case. Kids were told not to play near my fence. It was ridiculous, but effective, classic divide and conquer Karen tactics. I stayed patient on the outside, but inside I was furious. Still I waited. Because the best revenge isn't loud. It's documented. Then came the twist that changed everything. It was a rainy Thursday evening. I was reviewing my evidence folder when there was a knock at the back door. Standing there soaked was Mr. Ellison, the former HOA treasurer who'd quietly stepped down 6 months earlier. Looked nervous as hell. "Ryan, can we talk?" Off the record, we sat in my kitchen with coffee. What he spilled blew my mind. Pam hadn't just been harassing me. She'd been cooking the books. using HOA funds to pay for her own unpermitted backyard addition, a massive deck and pool house she'd built without city permits or board approval. Worse, she'd bribed the inspector with community donations to look the other way. Ellison had emails, bank transfers, even a recording from a closed board meeting where she bragged, "Rules are for the little people. I make the standards." He slid a USB drive across the table. "She's been forging petitions too, the one about your tree? Half those signatures are fake or coerced. I couldn't sleep knowing she's destroying your life while breaking every rule she enforces. Use this." I sat there stunned. The queen of compliance was the biggest violator of all. Hypocrisy on steroids. This wasn't just personal vendetta anymore. This was criminal. I thanked Ellison and promised to keep his name out of it. Then I spent the night cross-referencing everything. Suddenly, I had leverage that could end her reign overnight. But I didn't rush to the board or call the city yet. Smart move. Instead, I waited for her next move, because I knew she'd double down. Sure enough, 2 days later she showed up at my fence again, triumphant. "Final warning, Ryan." The board voted. "We're authorizing corrective action if you don't comply by Friday." I smiled. "Corrective action on property you have no jurisdiction over? Interesting. Almost as interesting as your unpermitted pool house, Pam. Or the HOA funds that mysteriously paid for it." Her face went white then red. "You have no proof." I held up my phone. "Actually, I do. And so does the city inspector you bribed. Want to keep pushing? Or should we talk about how the rules suddenly apply to everyone except you?" She laughed it off, but her hands were shaking. "Bluff all you want. Friday the crew comes." That night Mia asked me why everyone was mad at us. I hugged her and said, "Some people fear what they can't control, sweetheart. But we're going to be okay." Inside I was already planning. I called my lawyer, sent copies of the evidence to the city anonymously, and installed extra cameras. Pam thought she was about to win. She had no idea she'd just handed me the sword that would cut her own empire down. The drama was about to explode, and I was ready. Friday morning arrived like any other, sun shining, birds chirping, the neighborhood pretending everything was normal. Except it wasn't. I woke to the sound of trucks rumbling down the street. Unfamiliar white vans with Tree Solutions LLC on the side parked right at my back gate. My gate, which I'd locked the night before, was now wide open. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone and ran outside. There she was, Pam in a brand new yellow hard hat, clipboard in one hand, directing 4 burly guys with chainsaws like she was filming her own episode of Extreme Makeover, Dictator Edition. The lead saw was already biting into my oak's trunk, deep, ugly gashes bleeding sap. "Pam, what the hell do you think you're doing?" I yelled, phone recording everything. She didn't even flinch. "Authorized maintenance for community safety." "Step aside, Ryan." "Authorized? You have 0 permits. This is trespassing. City code violation. And I have it all on video." One of the workers hesitated, saw idling. "Lady, he says no permits." Pam snapped, voice sharp as the blade. "Keep cutting. I take full responsibility." The saw roared back to life. Neighbors started gathering, phones out, murmuring. "Is this legal? She's gone too far." I stayed calm, voice steady for the recording. "Gentlemen, you're on private property without consent. Stop now or you're all liable." But Pam was in full meltdown mode. "This tree has mocked me long enough. Cut it." That's when the ground trembled. The oak groaned, a deep, living sound like it was fighting back. The workers froze. "It's leaning wrong," one shouted. Pam's smile vanished. She screamed at them to keep going, but it was too late. The massive trunk pivoted slow and heavy, roots popping like gunfire. I yelled for everyone to run. The tree didn't fall toward the street like they planned. It swung straight toward Pam's house, right at the illegal deck she'd funded with stolen HOA money. The impact was thunderous. Roof tiles exploded. Beams splintered. Dust billowed like a bomb had gone off. When it cleared, Pam's fancy sunroom was crushed under 2 tons of heritage oak. Her teenage son, who'd been studying inside, was trapped. Sirens wailed in the distance. Pam stood frozen in her hard hat, mouth open, clipboard dangling. For the first time she looked small. The power trip had just met physics, and physics won. Chaos erupted. Firefighters pulled Pam's son from the wreckage, conscious but with a serious spinal injury. Paramedics worked fast while Pam screamed orders like she still ran the show. Faster. Do something. The professionals ignored her. Investigators arrived, and I handed over everything. Recordings, emails, Ellison's evidence, city reports proving the exemption. The contractors admitted Pam lied about permits and pressured them to continue. Within hours, the full picture emerged. Pam's illegal addition was exposed under the fallen tree. The bribery, the embezzlement, the forged petitions, all of it. Criminal charges followed: trespass, unlawful demolition, reckless endangerment, fraud. The HOA board dissolved in panic. Pam was stripped of her title, banned for life. Court dragged on for months, but the evidence was ironclad. She lost everything. Ordered to pay $1.8 million in damages, medical costs, environmental fines, and restitution, including a fund for her son's care. Insurance denied coverage because of the illegal activity. Her house was condemned. She sold at a massive loss and moved out in disgrace, reputation in tatters. The neighborhood finally breathed free. Months later, I stood in my yard watching city crews plant a new, legally supported sapling where the old oak had stood. Mia swung on the new branches, laughing again. Neighbors stopped by with casseroles and apologies. We should have spoken up sooner. Some even thanked me for exposing Pam's tyranny. Pam's fall was complete and satisfying as hell. The woman who demanded everyone follow rules she ignored ended up crushed by her own arrogance, literally and figuratively. The lesson? Boundaries aren't suggestions. Power without accountability always backfires. Document everything, know your rights, and never let a clipboard Karen tell you your own tree is the problem. In the end, justice didn't just knock. It dropped an entire oak right on her empire. And damn, it felt good to watch it fall.